Reins are a piece of tack and equipment that are commonly overlooked, but are one of the easiest and most budget-friendly things that we can easily adjust and adapt to help clear up communication between instructors and students and set our students up for more progress, success, and independence. So let's take a look at some common reins, and we'll also discuss a few other ones I don't have here and why I actually don't have them in my barn, so that you can hopefully take this information and play around with the reins that you have, maybe make a few easy budget-friendly adjustments that will set you and your students up for long-term success and better communication and relationship. My name is Sare Poli. I'm the owner and founder of Hoof Falls and Footfalls, and through Hoof Falls and Footfalls, I'm on a mission to help educate, equip, and encourage fellow adaptive, or also called therapeutic, horseback riding instructors around the globe. And in my many years of teaching both traditional horseback riding lessons and adaptive lessons, I have made a lot of mistakes when it came to what reins I put with my students, especially those that might have sensory needs or might be sensory avoidant. And those are students that we commonly see in adaptive riding lessons. And through those mistakes, I had a lot of learning moments that have helped me become much more aware of reins and how important these pieces of equipment really are, and the type of reins I use and how I set myself up during lessons to be able to clearly give directions and set up students for success really does go back to that choice of my reins. So reins and my super awesome rainbow large cones are probably two things that I cannot live without as an instructor. And even if I don't have my favorite set of reins as an instructor, I would do everything I could do from the start to make adjustments to whatever set of reins I had to make them a little bit more user and student friendly. So let's take a look at the different reins that I have here. So my favorite set of reins that have been my favorite for a few years now are these rainbow reins. They're Biothane material. I got these from Freedom Rider Tack. I will link her shop down in the comments below. This is not a paid sponsorship or mention. I just love this product and they're awesome. So with these Biothane reins, they're really sensory friendly. I have not yet encountered any students who do not like the feel of these. They are of a really good weight and a good feel, have a little bit of friction on them. And what I like a lot is that with these reins, I can very easily communicate if I want my students to hold at the top of white, at the bottom of white. We could hold in the middle, middle of red. So tons of ways that I can easily use the colors to communicate where I need my students to hold the reins. And that's gonna help them understand shortening and lengthening and keeping even rein length so much easier when they're starting out riding. So reins are a very common way that we overly challenge our students too soon. And I'm not saying students shouldn't learn how to ride with just plain leather reins, but those are like advanced level reins when we have no markings tactily, no markings visually on there. That's a pretty advanced skill to be able to manage those and set them even and be able to understand what shorten and lengthen means. So I'm a huge fan of rainbow reins. Like I said, these Biothane reins are my favorite right now because of how they feel. They hold up super well in the heat. I'm in a dry heat. I live in Arizona, so we get very hot but very dry. I've heard that these also hold up really well in humidity, and these hold up much better than probably the rainbow reins that you're familiar with that are rubber and have bumps on them. Those things melt if you get fly spray on them, or if you leave them out somewhere, they'll like start to disintegrate and get sticky and bumpy, and they're heavy and they're thick. And I actually have several students that I have taught in the past where the texture of the more traditional, like bumpy, grippy rainbow reins does not go well, and they do not want to touch those things, especially once they start like falling apart. I don't want to touch them, so I don't blame them. The other option of rainbow reins that are commonly out there is the nylon version. So it is like a material version of the reins. You could have color on one side or both. It's kind of hit or miss on how it's made. Usually when there's color on both sides, you're getting multiple layers of that fabric or the nylon on there material, and it gets pretty thick. And until they get worn in really well, they do tend to be pretty slippery. So with the bulk and the size, I love the colors on them, but the feel and the texture and the weight and the thickness of them just doesn't work quite as well for most students. And I notice that with my younger students or students that have smaller hands, those thicker, bulkier rainbow reins, whether they're the nylon or the bumpy rubber ones, they tend to not be able to have a good hand position on there. And they even have trouble holding appropriate like thumb on top position because of how thick and bulky that rein is for the student, okay? So rainbow reins are a super easy way and a really good investment if you're going to add something to your program. I would prioritize adding a couple good sets of rainbow reins. These are cool because they come in as, well, to date, this could change in the future, but they come in regular horse size, they have a pony length, and then they also have an extra long length, which is really awesome because I have two of them. That one is one of them that have like super long giraffe necks, and so that extra long actually works really well with them. If you don't have rainbow reins in your barn right now, or maybe you have one of those sets that I mentioned that really aren't sensory friendly and you're having students kind of fiddle around with them because of the bumps or the nylon and they're slippy, what you can do is find a couple sets of really good leather reins that you like, that are comfortable, well worn in, you know, have some good flexibility, good weight and feel to them. I'm a weirdo, I'm really picky about my reins, but the feel matters. So take a really good set of reins that are worn in, and what you can do is make your own set of rainbow reins or color coded reins to help your students know where we're gonna hold on to our reins. So I could easily say, okay, thumbs on green. If we're gonna hold there, okay, now we're gonna go thumbs on purple. Look, we shortened to purple. Oh, let's lengthen back to green. And you can even add little halfway marks in between if you want even more refined lengthening and shortening versus these big jumps here, because that might be too big for some of your students. So make your own. You can use, this is nail polish. It's been on here for a good year and a half at least. Nail polish, you could use leather paint and some type of clear leather sealant. You can order that from a leatherworking company or factory. I've also heard of instructors using like acrylic paint and then putting some type of clear coat over it. This though, this is just literally dollar store cheap fingernail polish. And this has worked super, super well. So these were just a regular set of English leather reins. You could even go with a flat set of Western reins if that's what you want to use, and just find the middle, measure it out, and just make sure your marks are even on both sides, and go ahead and apply your marking and your colors. You can also do the same to braided leather reins. So you'll notice here that on these braided leather reins, I have green and purple as my first two. And then same here, I have green and purple as my markers. So a little tip is, if you are making your own, or if you are ordering rainbow reins, try to order in bulk and get them to where you hopefully have the same color order. So you always know that it's blue, white, red, or green, purple, pink for my homemade ones. That just makes it easier when you're out there trying to communicate with a bunch of students, and you always know what's the longest setting, what's your middle, what's your shortest. So just a little instructor tip and hack there. But with these braided reins, same thing, you can go ahead and you can add on color to the braids, just like that. And again, measure it out evenly, and you can use these as a way to help communicate with your students. The leather reins I have not found as sensory or user friendly as just a nice flat pair of leather reins that also have the leather stoppers. These tend to be a favorite with all of my students who are both sensory seeking and sensory avoidant and have avoidance to certain textures. So these are my favorite as far as leather reins go. Biothane though, have not had any issues with any of my students to date for as long as I've used these. Leather reins are hit or miss, but if you have them in your barn, could be a nice, easy, quick fix and quick homemade make of adding in some type of visual marker to give you and your students a very clear way to communicate with each other. And it's pretty amazing to see when you add in some type of easy visual marker, and no, it's not cheating. They're learning how to shorten and lengthen reins, where to put their hands, what even means. They're learning that. Visuals help them learn and understand that skill so much better than just giving them a plain old pair of reins without markers on them, or even if they do have markers that aren't color coded to help them be able to easily spot it. So skip the struggle. Help your students learn faster, help them absorb that information and progress so much more quickly. It streamlines your communication, and that is also so helpful when you have the colors and the visual marker when we're working with students who might have trouble with auditory processing or processing and understanding things that they hear, which is very common in adaptive riding lessons. And really a lot of people out in the general population, hearing and processing words is usually a little slower than our visual center, where we can connect that color a little bit more easily. So I challenge you guys as instructors, go look in your barn right away, take a good honest look at your reins and see if your reins are setting your students up for success, or if they are complicating the situation and making it harder for them to learn how to place their hands on the reins, how to shorten and lengthen, how to keep even reins, and how to understand your verbal instructions to them from the instructor to the student. So this is a quick, easy, budget-friendly fix for you that can really take your teaching to the next level. So I want to hear down below, what is your favorite set of reins that you currently use with your students? Have you even considered the size, the feel, the weight, the visuals on the reins that you use with your students? Or do you think that those are kind of a cheater and we don't need to use them? I'd love to hear down below in the comments, wherever you are watching or listening from. Let me know your thoughts on this topic, and thank you to the instructors who reached out and asked about what type of reins work best for adaptive horseback riding lessons, especially when it comes to our students that might be sensory seekers or sensory avoidant. So make sure you guys put topics you want to learn about down in the comments, because that's how videos like this get inspired to be made. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And I need your help, because I don't pay for ads or anything like that to push this out. But I would love if you would take this video and any other public videos I have out there on YouTube and share them with fellow instructors. Share these with your volunteers. Share them with other instructors in training. If you're a mentor, I want you guys to take this information and pass it out and use it as a tool and a resource for other instructors. So until the next episode on Hoof Falls and Footfalls, I will see you guys then, and thank you so much.